Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this NAV Skills webinar about Business Central. This is a continued webinar from the previous webinar that we did about Business Central. Dmitry, being enthusiastic as he always is, ran out of time trying to explain how to enhance and create extensions with Business Central. So we are very happy today to be back with Dmitry, where he can show all of the cool stuff that you can do with this product. Before I give the floor to Dmitry, some housekeeping rules. All webinars are recorded. After they have finished, I brush them up a little bit and then I put them on the YouTube channel. Actually found out that in the previous webinar I did a little typo in the word Microsoft, but still we got 1,500 views, so that's pretty good. Corrected the typo, so maybe that'll help. New webinars can be found on our NAV Skills website. If you have any questions, please use the GoToWebinar question window. We are going to try to keep the questions until the end, so Dmitry can finish all of his demos. Joe and I will be watching the webinar question window. If we think there is something like super urgent that has to be interrupting Dmitry, we will do that, but otherwise we will hold everything until the end. And of course, as always, thanks to Liberty Grow Software for letting us use their GoToWebinar account. So with that, no further delays. I'm going to change the presenter to Dmitry. And Dmitry, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dmitry Katson, and today I will follow up my previous webinar about Business Center, and today we will focus on how we can. We will focus on technical side of Business Central, and we will focus on how to extend Business Central with apps and extensions. So we will talk about sandbox environment, and we will talk about new parts of Business Central, such as headlines. We will extend headlines with the different possible ways, and we can. And then, in the end, will be one more thing. So stay with me. It will be very interesting. The first slide is what's new in Business Central, and of course the new thing is a new web UI. But today I will not focus on it. You can see a recording of previous webinar where I explained very detailed about new web UI. And more, I will focus on new technical options, such as sandbox environment, headline parts, and new queue group property. This new technical stuff compared to NAV last cumulative update, which I found because as Microsoft promised, the code base is the same, but these parts of NAV or Business Central works only in Business Central. So we will start with the sandbox environment. And sandbox environment, we need to make extensions for Business Central. And we have three options how we can make a sandbox environment. First option is online sandbox. Second option is Azure Container Sandbox, and third option is on-premise container sandbox. And here is such a table where we can compare these options. Online sandbox is managed by Microsoft, and hosted on their Business Central tenant. Azure Container Sandbox is hosted on Azure, but it's hosted on your Azure VM. This is, as you know, template BC sandbox, and you pay for it. So because this is your virtual machine. And third option is on-premise container sandbox, and it's a Docker container that you can host on your local machine. That's why it's free for you. The most common question that I saw on different forums and Twitter, will a sandbox environment consist production data? And the answer is no. In every option, there will be no production data. So it will be new, clear clones. The next line here is production extensions, and you see the link on the bottom with from official documentation. Official documentation tells us that if we create online sandbox, that there will be no production extensions. But if we create Azure Container Sandbox or Premise Container Sandbox, there should be production extensions. But before this webinar, I tested it and I found that this doesn't work. So I make an issue on GitHub. We will see how it will work in the future. So I already explained about cost, and with every sandbox option, we can make development, of course. That's the purpose of sandbox, and but with different tools. With online sandbox, you can make extensions with VS Code and designer mode, and with only yes. And with the Azure Container Sandbox, you can make extensions with VS Code, designer, and C-side also, and we can access to SQL management studio. The same is for on-premise. Every option have debugging, and only Azure and on-premise sandbox have access to database, because you can connect to SQL. So let's make a little demo. I can start my real Business Central. I already registered and created a trial period. And you see that this is my Business Central with my company, and 0 balances and 1 sales amount this month. And how to create sandbox? We just click on search, and then we search for sandbox environment. And here we can create, reset, and open, and all these 3 buttons will create a reset and open online sandbox. So there is also, of course, if we already created online sandbox, we can open it from here. But there is another option how we can open it. We will to do so, we should add a sandbox to URL. So we can open it with this URL also. This is some features that are not described clearly in documentation. So it's what I found. And now it's open in sandbox environment. And you see that this sandbox is actually Cronus. Yeah, so it's Cronus USA and demo figures. Another option, we can use a container. And if we use container, we have two buttons here, host in Azure or host locally. If we click on host in Azure, Azure template will open, and like usual for usual before for a preview of development environment, or you can click host locally. So what this button do? It downloads for us a PowerShell script, and I have already this PowerShell open here. And we should, to make Sandbox on-premise environment, we should change two things. We should add true to accept ELA, and we should change container name. And then we just run the script, and container will spin up, and you will see that such container, it took about 50 seconds to have ready on-premise sandbox. Next thing that is new is activities which are highlighted. You see that these activities have white background, and they are highlighted with big font. And actually, this is made because of a new layout in Q group, which is called white. If we don't have this layout, then we will have activities by default as it been there. Next, which is new, is our headlines. And I already talked about them on previous webinar, but I will repeat once again just to make my story like end-to-end. So headlines, I call it my personal business news because when I enter my Business Central, I see the latest business news of my company. I see how many, what is the largest sales amount, what is the difference between sales, and so on. And these are extensible feature. So headlines, it's a page type. It's not some mystery. It's a page type with the property headline part. And if we add it on a role center, so it will show us this beautiful headlines. There can be about from 2 or 10 different headlines. Not limited, but you should follow this rule. And every headline shows about 5 to 8 seconds. Then it changes to another headline, and then it starts in a loop. We can drill down there. We will see it in next minutes. And so such rules that you should follow to make cool headlines. You should separate the context from the main message, and you should make some text emphasis. Also, you should make headlines like with a wow effect for the user, and you should make them user based, so consider user role. For different users you can make different headlines. And with headlines we have a new terminology. First is qualifier text. It's a name of headline. It shows as you see on the picture, and then it's a payload text. It's a text of headline itself, and next is emphasize text. It's some text that you want to highlight to the user. So what headlines we have by default in Business Central? The first very simple headline is a greeting headline, and it shows us three different headlines depending on what time you are entering Business Central. So you see on this table that between 0 and 11 a.m. it's a good morning, and then between 11 and 2 p.m. it's just hi, and between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. it's good afternoon, and then good evening. And if you have full name in your user table, then it will also tell me good morning, Dmitry. Or if you don't have full name, then it just says good morning. And also, if you, for example, in your headlines also want to follow these rules, you can use a function get user greeting text in code unit 1439. Also, if you will not see sometimes this headline, that's because of this headline will be hidden after 10 minutes from logon, and we cannot control this through extensions. The next headline is a documentation headline, and its purpose is to just opens Microsoft Docs web page, and we can control its visibility through extensions. And I will show you how to make this in next demos. And by default, in, for example, Business Manager Role Central, you will not see this default headline because it is hidden. And why it is hidden? It's because there is another headlines which is called Headlines Essentials extension for Business Central. So what are Essentials Business Headlines extension? It's an extension. It's an extension that will show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional headlines. And you can, of course, uninstall it or install it if you want, and you also can control its visibility by your extensions. So, for example, it will show you most popular item, and I already explored how it works and figure out the business logic, and you see that it's a max quantity item sales for 7, 30 or 90 days, what comes earlier. What is interesting here that there is such a headline like sales increase, and for my view, sales increase will must show us if our sales amount increases or decreases, increases actually, between current months and, for example, some another months. But in standard logic, it's a little bit different. It shows us a quantity of sales invoices, if they are increases or not. So for me, it's strange, but maybe it's only my opinion. What's also important that these are not online headlines. They are updated every 10 minutes. I think it's because of production. Because of just to save some resources. Here is a headlines workflow. You should know it because if you want to make your own headlines, you can follow this workflow. Or, for example, you can make it different, but you should understand how this works. So first of all, user opens role center page, and there is on open page trigger there, and this on open page trigger, it runs job queue. So it runs job queue immediately, and it runs when it runs job queue. There is integration event on compute headlines. So on white, white font is default headlines, which are written on CL, and on orange font, it's essential business headline logic. And so when on compute headlines integration events run, there is another event subscriber on compute headline business manager, and it triggers, and then it calculates all headlines if last calculation was made more than 10 minutes ago. Yeah, and then it stores the results in a table 1438. So let's make some demo here. In this demo, I will show you how you can extract a code for essential headlines extension, just to copy it and explore it. And if you want to make your extension, you will have it and understand how it works and what you can subscribe to and what not. So you just enter nav container, and then you go to see extensions, and you can see that there are zip files. They appeared. I can say that on previous my webinar there wasn't zip files with source code, and we extracted it with R archive, and now we have by default source zip files. After knowing it, we can copy it this file from we can copy this file from Docker to host machine. We can check that we have copied, and then we will copy it to another folder, and we can extract this zip with PowerShell, and you will see that I have a folder here, and we can open this folder, start in VS Code, and you will see all the source code for Essential Business Headline, and you can explore it. Okay, moving forward. I'm quick today because I want to show you many cool features. The next different demos, it's about extending Business Central with custom headlines. And I prepared some demos for you. The first demo, it's how to show documentation headline. Because if we will open, okay, we'll close this online tenant, and I want to show you my local sandbox from the beginning. And you see that we have good afternoon, it's greeting headline, and then we have headline extension. So we don't see documentation headline. And to see documentation headline, we should subscribe to page headline Role Center Business Manager. On event, on is any extension headline visible, and we should change variable here to false. So if you will run it, we will publish it on Business Central. And here we see that here is the documentation headline. That's a simple demo. Let's moving forward. Second demo. Come on. With the second demo, I will show you how we can extend standard Business Essential headlines in such way that we will hide some of these headlines. And to do so, we should subscribe to the same page, headline Role Central Business Manager, but another function on set visibility. And if you go, for example, on C side and check the code, you will not see this integration event here. You will not see this publisher event. So, but you should subscribe to it. That's because in Essentials headlines, there is table, page extension to headline Business Manager Role Center, and there is on set visibility integration event. So you subscribe to this one, and you can and you can change the behavior of it. For example, you can hide the most popular item and top customer visible. Make it also false. And if we will publish it, hopefully we will see that these headlines are hidden. Yeah, you see only two. All this code will be available on my GitHub, so don't worry that you can miss something. You can use it on you can use it on demand when you will need it. The next demo it's adding new headline. So to add new headline, you should make a page extension to headline Role Center Business Manager page, and you can make a new group, and you will add new field here. So I'm adding just a text field, and then on after get to record I handle greetings headline. It's a function that just fills text with some constant. And also I publish an integration event for my headline just to make possible any other developer to control it also. So if we publish this one, then we will see in the end, welcome to the webinar headline. Let's also make it a little more interesting. And we will move further. Demo 4. And we will use we will change a rendering of this headline. We will add payload text, and to do so we add payload text variable here. Welcome to the webinar, as in previous demo, but also we use headline management get headline text function here, and this function with this function you should input qualifier text, payload text, and then in the end it will give you a result text. So the qualifier text will be a name of our headline, Business Central Technical Deep Dive, and then welcome to webinar, and in the end we will have the whole text of headline. If we will publish it, then you will see that we have a name here. Okay, moving forward, making more difficult. Demo number 5. From this part, more fun begins. Let's imagine that this our business central is a live environment for Mark Burmel business. Yeah, and Mark makes webinars and publish them on YouTube. And when he enters his business central, he wants to look how many watches his channel has. And we can make a headline for him. We'll make a headline. You have get number of YouTube watches in your YouTube channel. And with simple, how we make this? With simple create a new table, my YouTube videos. It's a list of videos. It's a page for it, and also we have a code unit to get these videos from external web servers. So all this done in get number of YouTube watches function. So we go to definition, and we make simple things here. We refresh our lists, we calc sums of a number of watches, and we exit in a text format number of watches. And then we combine a headline text here. So when Mark opens his most his business central, which he loves very much, he will see that he have some 66,000 watches on YouTube, and these are about.
That's wrong, Dmitry. So
It's Mark. It's about enough skills webinars. I took YouTube playlist only enough skills webinars.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and so this is already some wow effect. Yeah, you see it, and but let's make it more interesting. We can add drill down. It's demo number 6. We can add drill down, and adding drill down, you have two options. You can open external link, for example, for YouTube video, and this is this demo. So when you on your field Navscape watch text on headline, you just add on drill down trigger as expected, and you add on drill down function, and here is some YouTube link. So if you will publish it, we'll see the same headline, but you see that when I use a mouse, I see that I can click on it now, and when I click on it, it opens me external YouTube playlists. I will close these windows, just not disturb. Okay, Another option for Drilldown is to open internal page. Yeah. So this is the next demo. The same functional drill down of skills watches, but instead of running external link, you run my YouTube videos page. So if you run it, you will see that this is the list of YouTube videos in NavSkills webinars with number of watches, and the most watched is what's new in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2018 with 8,000 watches. That's cool. That's cool, but it's not the end. I have one more thing, as I promised on my Twitter, and we'll add some more wow feature. We will forecast watches on YouTube with the power of machine learning, and to do so, you should follow 3 steps. You should prepare your data. It will be history data, and history data is already published webinars. We will train our model, and we will publish web servers. I will not show you a demo how we will make this in a machine learning studio because of the time. I have some screenshots here. This is history data. So we have history data from YouTube, and but to make some forecasting, it's not enough. We should tag every video, every line with some features. So I've created such features as category, audience size, and level of webinar, and if it's hot topic or not, and type of auditory, developers or testers, and the season where it was when it was published. And in the end, we have a label. It's a number of actual number of watches that we have on the YouTube channel. And then I created an experiment. So I used this data set, and then I made features as category, made the label as integer. I excluded webinar name because we don't need it. Actually, for forecasting, we need some features, and we remove duplicate rows, and we will split data for data that we will train and data for that we will test our model. I used the boosted decision tree regression model, trained my model, and then I created a predictive experiment. This is the same experiment, just added a web service input and a web service output. And for web service output, I leave only scored labels, which are my prediction watches. And then after publishing a web service, I created we can test it and just input in some inputs, and we can make scores. So let's see the last demo how it works. It's the last demo, number 8. And so the same things here. We just added a new headline. This headline of skills predicted watches text, and we handle it to calculate. And how it's calculated? It's get number of planned YouTube webinars. So I have a data set of planned YouTube webinars, and then after I have it, I go to machine learning servers and predict YouTube watches. And I combine headline text here. How I make predictions, it's interesting. I just use, so it's I have predict function here, and go to predict by line. Actually, I use a feature that you can use also in Business Central. It's Azure ML connector, and it's very easy here to send a request to Azure Machine Learning Web Service and get a response. So I just initialize with a keyer and web service URI and enter my columns and values, and then I send a request and get a result. So let's see how it works. That should be really wow effect. I hope.
Drum roll, please.
And here is, you have 6 planned webinars with 12,000 predicted watches. And we can drill down here, and you will see that the current webinar, which is a planned deep dive, should have 3,600 watches. And so maybe you will have some webinar about reporting. It's also a wide audience, and it's hot topic. That's why it's also 3,000 predicted watches. And
yeah,
you see that.
We will do that when 4.5 is published as an app. Haha.
Yeah. Okay. and now you know how much watches you will get. And
cool.
here
Cool.
you have seaside development planned, and it's category seaside, and it's narrow auditory size, and it's developers, and that is why it's not very high number of watches. And to show you that it really works, it's not constant. For example, you can change auditory type to narrow, and to make it not very hot topic, and make prediction, and you will see that the prediction number of watches will decrease. So it was the last my demo, and in May I will hold also one more webinars. You can follow this link and register. It will be 5 days web class, 2 hours per day, 5 days, and you will learn all about Visual Studio Code and also machine learning. There will be session there. And here is my contact. You can contact me via any channel. I with pleasure will help you if I can. And now we have Q&A time.
Cool. So first of all, thank you for this very interesting webinar. You make me feel a little bit guilty that I'm not using Business Central for my accounting. I'm using.
Yeah, it was prepared by Microsoft. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So let me start with the first question. We currently have 2 questions in the question window, but please, guys and girls, I encourage you to type in more questions. I was actually looking at some of the YouTube statistics myself, I think it was last week, and I noticed that 97% of our viewers are male and 3% of our viewers are female. So
yeah, this also can be a feature.
Yeah. So the first question is from Christoph, and I think you have already answered that during the webinar by your demos, but it says, can users interact with a headline, maybe open a new page when the user clicks on the headline?
Yes, you can, if you are talking about headlines, essentials extension, then yes, you can, I think you can subscribe to on Drilldown and change its behavior.
Okay.
I think you should, yeah.
So what can you do with headlines as an end user? Can you hide one or create new ones yourself, or do you have to be a developer and use Visual Studio Code?
No, it's only developer stuff. That's why a developer should know and should think what user will be will need, yeah, as a headline. What information from system can make a real wow effect for a user. So I think you should think about headlines maybe like dashboards, maybe, but the text dashboards.
Yeah. So then we have the the million-dollar question, of course, that we probably will get in every webinar until Business Central in October is released. Is Microsoft going to close Seaside? And that's actually kind of a wrong question, because if you read it like this, the answer is, of course, yes. But I think it's more interesting of a question, when will Microsoft close Seaside, and will it be in the next release or in somewhere further on in the future?
My opinion, well, the official position is that they will not close Seaside. But they are not investing in Seaside anymore.
No.
And they invest in Visual Studio Code. It's the first thing. The second thing, if we look, for example, at 6 years ago, maybe more, when we moved from forms to pages, it took two or three versions, I think 2 versions. When we have end pages and forms, and then only pages.
Only pages,
so,
yeah.
So maybe it's we can think about 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Yeah,
it's my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that opinion. And people that I talk to also think that Seaside will probably be there still in October when Business Central for on-premises will ship. But it's too early to say what will happen in 2019, right?
Yeah, we have now daily updates of Business Central. Yeah.
So we
Very
have, yeah,
well.
yeah, we also have new terminology because I actually had somebody ping me on LinkedIn today to have a class on extensions. And this guy called himself a classic developer, but with classic he now means not extensions, seaside. So the term classic is also becoming an ambiguous term. So Kaiko Waloesi is recommending you to use another term for watches. He says you should call it views, but that's more of a tip. Can you do everything with headlines in CAL? So if you don't use VS Code, can you do everything in headlines?
Yeah, you can use CL now. It's it's a new part, headline part, and you can create it in CL.
Okay. So then we have a longer question from AJ Ansari, and I'm just going to read it. Dmitry, can you clarify the sandbox options slide? For the Azure Sandbox and the on-prem sandbox, you mentioned that SQL Server Management Studio and Seaside are allowed. Are you implying the situation after Microsoft is renamed Business Central on-prem this fall? While I know that I can create Sandbox from Business Central on my local machine on Azure, to my knowledge, we cannot do anything with Seaside or touch the SQL database.
No, with the Azure Container Sandbox or on-prem Container Sandbox, there is access to Seaside, and here it is. For example, it's you can open Seaside from a container. It's by default on your desktop, and you can make everything in Seaside if you want. Also,
but you cannot publish it back to the cloud, right? Once you cannot.
If you let me clarify. If you no,
because
I think that if you make everything in Seaside in extensions, with using in events, using events, then you can use a tool that will convert your Seaside to an app, and then you can publish it on tenant.
Then you have to.
You can, But why
Then you
you
have to
should?
convert your code to an extension at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's complicated path.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have a very nasty question by Victor. How do you extend a report? Like, how do you, if a customer wants to change the sales invoice and wants to add 2 columns? Well, of course, you can create a custom layout, right? Reports always
you can create a custom
reports always
layout.
had an extension model, right, where you can have additional layouts. So additional layouts is already there, and of course you can create your own sales invoice and just replace them with the
I think this is most recommended way by Microsoft is to create your own report.
Yeah. But I think in general, replacing a report is hard if there is no report selection for it. For example, in warehouse management, there is no report selection for the pick list. Can you share the web link again for your workshop? That's a question.
Yes. This one.
And then we have, well, this is a strange question because it's assuming something. Victor is saying, is there any news on Microsoft fixing the slow performance on Azure SQL? But that's kind of strange because that question assumes that SQL Azure is slower. Are you familiar with that statement?
I hear it first time, frankly speaking.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've never heard that Azure SQL is slower. I only hear it's faster, but I don't have any.
Maybe you mean some web UI is slower. Maybe it's a different.
Maybe Victor can. Okay, So Victor is saying it's 25% slower. Victor, maybe so Luke and I are arranging a SQL Azure webinar in May. So next month we will have a SQL Azure webinar. So maybe Victor, you can actually register for that webinar and ask that to the guy who is presenting that. Can headlines be role center specific? I think they are. I think they are because you subscribe to. Yeah, they are a page extension.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave Mechanic is saying, it's not really a question, but Dave is saying when nav is in AL, they can close CAL. Well, Dave, have you tried converting all the nav objects to AL objects? It will fail, I can tell you that.
Because of .NET?
Because of .NET and because I think Michael Nielsen did a bunch of tests and the compiler actually didn't work on the standard objects. But that was a month ago.
Yeah, in my example of when you use Azure Mail code unit, inside of this standard code unit is .NET variable.
And I also heard that .NET for on-prem will be shipped soon. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Joe. Joe is saying that we are running over time. I did not notice that. Thank you, Joe. That means that we have to wrap up, and we were out of questions anyway. So with that, I think, thank you for attending. Thank you, Dmitry, for presenting. I had fun. I hope you had fun as well. And I hope people signed up for your class. And well, I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you all for attending. Yeah. Bye. See you soon.
Bye.